discussion. This is a good discussion when it comes to what we're teaching, because
Yes.
what Bob Proctor was teaching all about Napoleon Hill.
He was, and I was studying the book for 60 some years.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
63 years. And if he was still alive, he would still be studying the book. Because you can pick it up.
Absolutely.
You can pick it up like I just did with this book and just open any page and see where it takes you, right? Because nothing happens by chance.
Yes.
And this is really interesting. So yeah, the stick man.
That's why I said to you, just open. Yeah, that's why I said to you, just open the book and see what the universe wishes us to learn today. And now we're here.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we were at
Show the book, please, for everybody.
I showed the book for
Show
everybody.
the book so they see.
You're talking to yourself.
Thinking you're too close to the camera.
I am.
There's it. Talking to yourself. Yes.
By Pamela.
And it was from 84.
81.
Pamela Butler. Yes.
1981. So actually, I should start from the beginning. It's not part of Napoleon Hill, but it's pertaining to what we're learning and what we're teaching. So, are you frequently unable to meet your self-imposed deadlines? Do you hold yourself back out of fear of intruding upon other people? Do you believe that what you do is never enough? Do you need a drink or a tranquilizer in order to relax? Are you more forgiving of other people than you are of yourself? Do other people frequently disappoint you? Are you unable to do nothing and feel okay about it?
I hope so.
Are you considered to be a perfectionist? Well, I'm reading it, but I'm not answering it to myself. I'm thinking about the answer though. Do you generally lack confidence in yourself? Are you anxious, depressed, or angry more often than you would like? If your answer to any of these questions is yes, it is likely that you have incorporated a self-2 who is critical, fault-finding, blaming, and a self-monitor who sets exceedingly harsh standards and meets out equally severe penalties if these standards are not met. We are the worst judge, right, of ourselves.
Yeah,
you have acquired a self to judge. So we have a self and a self-judge, a self to judge. The development of such a critical self-2 is not a mysterious process. Psychological studies demonstrate that we all begin to talk to ourselves at an early age, and that this self-talk is based on what we have learned from interacting with the significant adults in our environment. An adult's communication with you as a child is a prototype for for your later communication with yourself. If the influential people in your early life were harsh, critical, judgmental, then your own self too tends to incorporate the same characteristics. So at this point, that means the influential people in your early life were raised by people that experience the same thing. So this is the heredity.
Generation of.
Generation. So if you're, excuse me, if your early mentors set realistic requirements and were genuinely instructive in their comments, you learn to set the same type of standards for yourself, because we tend to copy what we were raised with, right? We're a product of our environment. Based on the messages received from other people, parents, brothers, sisters, teachers, friends, You also form a self-definition, a set of controlling boundaries that can determine in large measure your life course. You learn to see yourself as athletic or clumsy, intelligent or stupid, lovable or unlovable, okay or not okay. So when the principal figures in our early life with perfectionistic judgmental standards, you are extremely vulnerable to the development of a negative self-image. Even if you are doing average or better than average work, for example, you may incorporate the self-definition stupid. If you do not live up to that, to the performance of a brother or a sister, or to the unrealistic expectation of a parent, you can call yourself stupid. That's our self-definition. Even if you're exhibiting normal energy and exuberance, you may accept your parents' critical view, bad child, because you see it with the filters of whatever age you had when you were being called a certain name. Moreover, you will begin behaving in a way that proves that your self-definition is true. For example, if you view yourself as a lousy athlete, you will shy away from an activity that ends of athletic ability. The opportunity to develop physical skills is lost. It is the chance to discover your latent talents. Along similar lines, if you have the self-definition, I'm stupid, you will not assert yourself during intellectual discussions. Neither will you have the opportunity to test this definition's validity. Through your interaction with the early world, you may also learn that your okayness is conditional, that you are noticed, loved, and accepted only under certain conditions, that is, when achieving, looking pretty, or being obedient. See, that's what's the effect of love? The dog, right? You train the dog. I had a dog, his name was Bones, and train him. My friend instructed me. Train him every time he had to go outside to go to the bathroom. I put a bell there and I will ring the bell. And then I hung the bell from a chain from the curtain rod by the patio door. So he learned, and then when he will come in, I will give him a treat. So he learned that if he sit there when he had to go to the bathroom and he ring the bell because he touched it, I will let him out. He will do his needs and then come back. I will give him a treat. But then he became so intelligent that he will go continuously.
Because he wanted a treat.
He wanted a treat. That was, I think, was Pavlov effect. You train, you're salivating just because you're describing the food, or close your eyes and imagine eating a slice of lemon, right? What happens? Your mind cannot differentiate between what's imagined or what's really in your mouth. You're going to start salivating just like if the lemon was in your mouth. So that's the same thing as saying. I'll read it again. To your interactions with your early world, you may also learn that your okayness is conditional, that you are noticed, loved, and accepted only under certain conditions. That is, when achieving, looking pretty, or being obedient. Because some parents say, "Oh my gosh, you're such a good boy. You're such a good girl." So if you were criticized or scolded, when you allow yourself to relax or play, you may decide, I'm okay only when I'm accomplishing something. So furthermore, this decision can persist to the point that as an adult, you critically judge yourself in the same way whenever you have the opportunity to relax or have fun. This judgment, of course, will manifest itself in your moment-to-moment self-talk. Interesting. Not just your behavior. self-talk. Self-talk is what causes the behavior. So why
And self-confidence.
is
Self-confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why are you just sitting around? Get up and do something, right? Look at us. We don't want to start with our other two partners. So what do? We find ourselves something to do instead of just closing our eyes and meditate. Okay, so this judgment, of course, will manifest itself in your moment-to-moment self-talk. Why are you just sitting around? You got a million things to do today. If nothing else, you could clear out that door. Don't be so lazy, Bente. You just moved. So the parental message accepted years ago continues to generate negative self-talk. As you can see, the framework that you learned as a child for evaluating yourself and your experiences is a tremendous influence on how you now direct your life. Unfortunately, this framework does not always allow room for your emotions and needs. Important mentors can expose you to a way of talking to yourself that ultimately leads to frustration and failure. Yes, because if you don't find a good mentor, if you don't find a Napoleon Hill coach, you don't analyze this concept the way it should be analyzed. So you can be taught to operate within the judgmental structure. Once you find a good coach. So what is the judgment?
Because an NHI coach,
Is,
they teach you to think different.
Mhm.
That is the secret.
Well, because with the studies of the mind that we've done and that we continue to do, we learned that our mind, our subconscious mind, cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. So you create your reality based on what you think. So
please, Liliana, can you show us the stick person? Then we can learn where the subconscious mind is.
Sure, I can do that.
And our mind is in our whole body, in all our cells. There it is.
I can do that.
Yes.
Okay, 1934, Norman Fleet was one of the first holistic doctors. And he used to say that doctors nowadays, in the 30s, in the early 30s, were taking care of the symptoms. They were not curing the disease. So he figured that all disease starts in the mind. And when all disease starts in the mind, if you don't take care of the problem in the mind, you're not going to cure the disease. You're only going to handle the symptoms. So there's a
Please tell me.
that.
Please tell me the mind. Where is the mind in the body?
Well, that's the mind and the body. The Greeks used to say it's in the heart.
Yeah.
And I believe it is. Okay, so he came up, Thurman Fleet came up with a drawing to make people understand the functions of the mind. And the reason why he did that is because since we think in pictures, it was hard for someone to imagine the mind. When is the last time you've seen the mind? People seem to think that the brain is the mind. The brain is not the mind. But the brain is into every cell in your body, your fingernail, all over. Anyway, so he came up with this abstract figure. He said, this is the mind, and this is the body. I gotta put the book down. So he said this is just an abstract drawing. This is our subconscious mind. This is where all our habits are stored. And this is our day-to-day conscious mind. And these are our five senses. We operate through the five senses. We operate through what we see, hear, taste, smell, and touch. Instead of operating from what's inside the subconscious mind. What's inside the subconscious mind is the sum total of our habits, our DNA, our acquired habits, our passion habits, with the sum total of our friends. They said, Bob Proctor used to say, the 5 people you're now with the most. Doesn't matter if it's your parents. That's why later on in life, they say, oh my gosh, you act just like your mother, right? So what we have here is the sum total of everything that's been put in here, just like an open bowl. When you're a baby, this is an open bowl, and everybody puts in the way things should be done. And that's what this book is saying. That's exactly what this book is explaining. This book is saying that we judge ourselves by what people were saying to us as we were growing up. So based on the messages received from other people, parents, brothers and sisters, teachers and friends, it can also form a self-definition, a set of controlling boundaries that can determine in large measure your life course. You learn to see yourself as athletic or clumsy, intelligent or stupid, lovable or unlovable, okay or not okay. It's not because somebody told us that, but it's because this is how we interpret it. So when the principal figure...
This is what is hidden in the subconscious.
Exactly.
This is what is hidden in the subconscious, yes.
Exactly. And this is the way it was understood, because when you tell a child, this is it, the child is going to believe you. And we have one thing I noticed as I was learning English was that some ways of saying things, they don't translate the same way in Italian, because I cannot think of a comparison right now, but some things are just not literally. That's why you can't translate literally with Google, because there is a concept behind. Each language has its own cultural aspect and does not translate well. Remember, we had a lesson a couple of days ago where the meaning in your language was completely different than the language we study in English, and it's completely different in Italian. Each culture has its own beliefs attached to the language. So a child is another cultural being, because when you're a child, everything you say, it's literal. So if you say, well, be careful, that is, you're going to get hurt. So you're going to grow up thinking that doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get hurt. So we got to be careful what we're saying and how we're saying it to children, because children understand different. And accordingly to this book, we have the child within, the judge, the self to judge. That's a child within that understood things in a different way. So when the principal figures in your early life have perfectionistic judgmental standards, you are extremely vulnerable to the development of a negative self-image. Even if you're doing average or better than average work, for example, you may incorporate the self-definition stupid if you do not live up to the performance of a brother or sister. And if you do not live up to the unrealistic expectation of a parent, because a parent might compare you to an older sibling or to or imaginary or is imaginary picture of
or their own dream.
Of their own dream, exactly.
Or their own dreams.
Exactly.
That they were not able to fulfill, yes.
So they will never be satisfied. So even if you are exhibiting normal energy and exuberance, you may accept your parents' critical view as a bad child. That's why we have all this ADHD, right? And that child was hyperactive, and I mean, because doesn't fit that picture in their mind. I believe that it's not necessarily whether there's something wrong with the child, but it could be our interpretation of that child behavior. I mean, if you are a calm and relaxed person, never raise your voice, and you were raised that way, and then all of a sudden you have a child that's has a lot of enthusiasm and it's really easily excited, of course you're going to think there's something wrong with the child, right? It's according to our expectation. So moreover, you will begin behaving in a way that proves that your self-definition is true. For example, if you see yourself as a lousy athlete, you will shy away from any activity that ends of athletic ability. I think we've already read this. So,
Yeah, I remember the athlete. Yes.
Yeah, okay, so the
But
judgment.
we can just discuss what we have been reading.
Well, let me finish the judgmental structure. It's just a small
Yes,
one page, and then
yes.
we'll discuss it. And then we'll wrap it up. I guess they're missing a good lesson today. So the judgmental structure, because we are our worst judges. The judgmental structure is essentially a view of the world where perfection is the dominant expectation. There is always a very clear right way of doing things that makes any other choice wrong. There's only, well, that's one way, one in the English language that I could not understand when I was learning. It's like, it's my way or the highway. Because in Italian, we don't say that. It's not, I understand what it means now because I learned that. But if you stop and think, when you tell a child, because I was a child learning English on my own, right? I didn't learn in school. I learned with books. So it's my way or the highway. When you translate that word by word, what do you think? Why do I have to go on the highway if I don't take your way, right? It's completely different meaning. Now I know what it means, but back then I had a tough time. So there is always a very clear right way of doing things and makes any other choice wrong. So this framework leads to the constant preoccupation with what is lacking. See, that's where it starts. It starts right there and then. When we start seeing everything, we start noticing the negative. We start noticing what's wrong in the picture. We start noticing that we start noticing because it doesn't live up to the expectation. So if it doesn't live up to the expectation, it's wrong. It's got to be wrong. That's why we're never satisfied with ourselves. That's why people have self-view issues. They see themselves not perfect because of that. So this framework leads to the constant preoccupation with what is lacking, as opposed to what is present. So we lose track of what's there. We just wish was something else. It leads invariably to fault finding and blaming, with the corresponding emotional reactions of disappointment and anger. So let's examine the effect of this toxic structure on Connie Evans. Connie is just beginning to organize her own business and advertise in service for a small community organization. The decision to work for herself has put Connie into a turmoil. Although she spent 8 years in an advertising agency before her marriage and has the necessary background and experience, she finds herself full of self-doubt. Getting her project off the ground has been very difficult, as any move towards working for herself causes anxiety. And that's where anxiety comes from, right? Remember, Bob used to say, if you don't express what you think, you're going to create anxiety. So
you're gonna be, what did you say?
Creating anxiety.
Yes,
If we look to Connie's inner speech, the source of her difficulties became apparent. Connie is operating under the constant scrutiny of herself to judge. She's trapped within the shoulds and the should nots of the judgmental web. Any move to extricate herself is met with self-punishment. If she's not immediately available when sun, Sean, and Seth come home, for example, Connie must fight off her fear that she's being a neglectful mother. If dinner is not on the table at the usual time, she feels guilty. When friends interrupt her work with calls during the day, she's torn as to what to do. Should she ask them to call her back that night, or should she just talk now and not have to worry about hurting their feelings? The dialogue with which Connie begins her work day further explains her turmoil. Why am I doing this? She asks herself. Who's going to hire me? I haven't been in the workforce for over 10 years. There are younger women out there. I'm just wasting my time. Or she gets a handle on these thoughts with the reply, well, you can at least do a brochure for yourself. That's your business, isn't it? And get in a full day today, not just 2 or 3 hours. Still, the small injection of openness has an impact. This is how Connie talks to herself all day long. At the end of the day, Connie feels depressed because she didn't accomplish what she wanted to accomplish. And why did she accomplish what she wanted to accomplish? Because she had crazy expectations of herself. They were not demanding that of her. She was demanding that of herself. Farther, since she has usually managed to work at the high level for only a few hours, she observes, you didn't do it again. And she scolds herself saying, what's going to take for you to do a full day's work? If you don't shape up, you're not ever going to land an account. So by examining Connie's inner dialogue, we see 3 self-2 that support the judgmental structure. Each buttress, I'm not sure I know what buttress is. Do you know what buttress is?
No.
I'm gonna
How is it spelled?
B, where is that? I'm gonna look it up. That's how I learned.
Yeah, good.
It's Buttress.
Never heard about.
So I need to find this word to fully
It
understand.
hasn't been
I have
necessary
an
to
idea.
learn from you.
Right. I have an idea, but that doesn't mean that's what it is. Okay. So when I finish this paragraph, we'll look it up. Okay. So by examining Connie's inner dialogue, we see 3 self-2 buttresses that support the judgmental structure. Each buttress and the self-talk derived from it interferes with Connie's work-related goals. So let's briefly examine each, the self-2 commands. The self-2 commands is the drivers. The prohibitions are the stoppers. And the faulty thinking are the confusers. Okay, so we're going to stop at that. We're going to look up that word. And I suggest that we'll continue to read another time. Okay, so I need to find this word. I don't need my glasses. Oh my gosh. I get this. I don't need reading glasses except when I'm tired. So when I take them off, it's like, ah. Okay, so let's look at this word. It's Buttress. Dictionary. It's a noun. It's a projecting support of stone or brick built against the wall. The cathedral massive buttresses, a projecting portion of a hill or mountain. It's also a source of defense or support. She clung in a shrinking faith as a buttress against despair. Okay, so we'll be like almost like a foundation. So if you don't have the proper foundation, that's what it meant. In that, the proper foundation will be You know, when she was told you're not doing this and you're not up to that, whatever, as a child, you see things from a child limited thinking, a child limited knowledge of words and stuff. So you see that as an inability to do things. So of course, you don't have good foundation. You have a limiting foundation, right, Bente?
So whenever the wind blows at her or me or anybody, then you just fall
Exactly.
because you can't stand. Yes.
Like the roots of a plant. If you don't have the good foundation, you go with the wind.
And then obviously you'll die somehow because you
Yes.
don't get the nourishment from the earth for the plant or the nourishment for yourself from Mother Earth.
Right. Well, you don't physically die, but your creative power dies.
Yes, you
Right?
mentally die.
It's like
Yes.
cutting the wings off a butterfly. You won't be able to take off anymore. And I had the good fortune to meet in 1993 one of the best yoga teachers in my area. I went there because I had an issue with, which was stress. I had an issue with my neck. I woke up with a stiff neck one day, and I was cooking. It was on a Friday, and I was gonna be a busy day. And back then, I used to cook by myself, so it was like preparing all the dishes for each client, which was time consuming. But I went to the
Yeah,
doctor.
because you run a fantastic restaurant.
Yeah, for a long time. But I
Yeah.
was like, I could move, and there's no way you can handle and cook food for 100 people when you cannot move. So I went to the doctor right away. They got me in, and they said they couldn't find anything structurally wrong. In 93, I think, I don't remember how I was. So anyway, so they said, well, they give me a prescription for Valium, a low dose. And they said, this is going to fix the problem, but don't take it now, take it when you go to bed. I said, well, what good is it going to do to me when I take it, when I go to bed? You know, I need it now so I can work. So it's like, they give me a brace. So I went to work with the brace, and it was horrible. It was bad, really bad. That's a long time before I was into this, long time before I realized it was stress. It's not the way you sleep, it's stress. Because everything starts in the mind. But back then I didn't know everything starts in the mind. And it's a stressful situation when you run a place and you deal with all these people coming in, and everybody has problems, of course. I have problems, you have problems, and we all have problems. But when you go and work and for service, doesn't matter if it's a restaurant or consulting business or coaching business, you leave your problems home, and you don't carry them with you because you need to listen to other people's problems in order to help them solve them. So the next day, I find this article in the local newspaper where they had the whole page article about this yoga instructor. She had a picture of people hanging from ropes upside down in order, and she was being interviewed, where she will say, you know, that the force of gravity in a passive pose like that will release the neck. So the muscles of the neck and the shoulders will go back in place. So I said, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my answer. So I signed up. That was at the local Y. I signed up for, I think it was 6 weeks, 10 weeks. I don't remember. Anyway, and then we became friends, and we're still friends today. She retired until 2019, but we text at least 2 or 3 times a week. But she was such a good teacher because she was an holistic yoga teacher. She was teaching Iyengar yoga. You know, she helped me conquer carpal tunnel, trigger finger, without surgery, by applying the mind. Anyway, one thing, because the good teachings, they stay with you. So what's stuck in my mind back then is exactly that the foundation in the body, just like a plant, are the roots. Everything originates from the roots. Where the roots in a plant are the roots. You don't see them. What the roots in our body, well, is the thoughts, of course. You don't see them. But in yoga is the feet. The feet, if you don't make your feet and the legs strong, anything that comes along is going to sway you. Right? So if you're not strong in your beliefs, doesn't matter if it's religious, doesn't matter if it's whatever they are, if you don't have your own mind with your own beliefs, anybody that comes along is going to sway you. Right? You're going to say, no, that way is wrong. My way is right. Because you don't have the strong foundation. You got to have a strong foundation, like the book is saying. You know, if our foundation is based on what we believe ourselves to be way back then, when we were watching life rolling around with the filters of a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, right? And we stop at that because that's when we form our self-definition. And once we form our self-definition, our self-2, and in this case, the self-3, right? We start living a life with the opinion that we had of ourselves way back then. Okay, so what is your take? What is your take on this chapter that we read?
It is life itself.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we are brought up with, everybody, because we are the result of our parents and our surroundings and school. When you go to school, and I was told that no, the flower should be yellow, not red like I had painted it. And suddenly I stopped being creative because
Yeah.
I trusted that teacher. So that is the base in us that needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, and how you think to yourself.
Exactly.
So how would you tell us to think? Shall we?
Oh,
It
we
is the broad road and the narrow road. So shall we think the broad road or the narrow road?
the narrow road.
The narrow.
The road.
Yeah, because the narrow road is what you have to think from yourself.
Exactly.
The broad road, then you listen to everybody.
Exactly. You have to experience firsthand, number one, because as you learn, it's going to stay with you longer if you learn and digest it yourself. And then when you have a desire to learn, you get better results, right?
Yes.
So everything starts with the desire. So yeah, you got to take the road less trouble because everything starts in the mind. And once you realize that it starts in the mind, and it's only because we analyze everything with just limiting beliefs passed on to us by the environment, which is the parents, the teacher, the brother, the sister, and the friends, and whatever it is, we see ourselves in a different view. So we start feeling ourselves inadequate, not capable. So this is how the attitude is being formed, just like Earl Nightingale says. You know, what is attitude? Attitude is a composite of your feelings and emotions that cause actions. It's the same thing with the stick man again. You get the feelings. This is the action caused by one of the 5 senses. Something you see, something you hear, something you taste, something you smell, something you touch, right? Causes what? A feeling. That feeling finds the equivalent in the emotion from the past, the belief. Encounters that resistance because you did not properly digested the way you tagged these feelings way back when they were being installed. So these programs that were being installed, like your new computer, is all new programs, right? So it's easier for you now to use that computer because you're already updating and downloading new programs. So the feeling and the action causes a reaction. So the reaction, the three components of attitude are exactly that: feeling, emotions, and reaction. We react to how we feel when we see certain things because of these beliefs, these programs that were being installed in us growing up.
And then, do you know what? Then we can ask ourselves the simple question, am I content with my results? Because the results always tell how you are thinking.
Exactly. That's why people do not understand when we say that we're creating our own reality. Our own reality is based on what we think, is based on what we believe, is based on what's there in that unconscious mind. Is the way we understand things is what creates my reaction, my attitude, and of course my results. It's a chain reaction, right? So everything starts with the mind, and now we talk to ourselves is one of the big component of that. So I suggest
we have to change our talking then.
Exactly. I suggest including this book every now and then. One chapter of that is not gonna what we're learning and what we're teaching is just gonna enrich our tools.
It was a fantastic chapter of how we are, and then with the self-image, how to change it. That is how NHI are founded on, to give possibilities instead of and new results instead of keeping the old ones that we are not happy with.
Exactly. To create a different reality accordingly to what we want to achieve and what we want to be, accordingly to our desire. Well, it was a pleasure, Bente. We'll continue tomorrow when the other two Sleeping Beauties will be available, and we'll go back to our Napoleon Hill book.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, Liliana, always, because you're so full of knowledge and how to
thank you.
Make the knowledge, your knowledge, attainable to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it's just because I get inspired to find the right words for to help
But
people.
the thing with us too is English is not our native language, so we try the best we can.
Exactly. And I think that's why we click so well, the four of us, 4 different countries, 4 different languages. We all have one thing in common, beside the fact that we were all created to create. We also have in common the fact that English is not our first language. So we each learn the language through different means. I learned mine at home, self-educated.
Yeah, and then you also told that you didn't get it in learning the English in school. You learned it by yourself, and you used Earl Nightingale many years ago to be your teacher. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't use him to be my teacher, but he was my motivator to learn because it was
Yeah, but you know,
the
I-
first self-help program, and I could not fully understand it because I didn't know English as much as and as well as I do now. So it was hard to look up word by word, and I translated word by word, but I was missing the meaning, just like I said. Missing the
yeah,
meaning.
but still, Earl Nightingale is on the same path as Bob.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so how did you get in contact with Earl Nightingale? Because not many in those days knew about him.
Well, I really do not know.
And how did you understand that he was something for you? You know,
I
that you
didn't
used
know.
him as.
I didn't know at that point. I did not know that
Mm,
Bob Proctor used to work for him.
mm,
Proctor used to work for Earl Nightingale.
yeah,
And I had no
and
idea until I signed up for a seminar with Bob Proctor on goal achieving. So he used to say that Andrew Carnegie coached Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill coached Earl Nightingale, Earl Nightingale coached Bob Proctor.
yeah.
I was coached by Bob Proctor. So I'm the
But
son
then
of
I have
these
this
people.
feeling that you have a good connection with your intuition already that early, because you used Nightingale as your motivator. It's so I think it's just a fantastic story. So you had
I don't even know how
a
I
growth.
found it. I do not know how I found it.
No,
Oh,
no, but you resonated in you.
yes,
That is yes,
absolutely. Not
and that
only
is the
by
fantastic thing. So to follow the road less traveled by following things that resonates inside of you,
my desire.
that is how to find your basis, isn't it?
Yes, I think my well, number one, because at the restaurant we had anywhere from 5 to 10, 12 people, sometimes 15 people working for us. So you had so many different mentalities, different upbringing, different personalities. And you gotta remember, I was 28 when we bought the restaurant. I was I was still mentally growing as a mother. I had two little children. I had a 6-month-old. I had a 2-year-old. I had been married like, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years. So I was learning to be a wife. I was learning to be a mother, and I was learning to be a boss, and I was learning to be a business owner. And I did not know the language. So I had a good motivation to learn. And that was a good motivator. And the fact that I went and quit smoking because I got hypnotized was the trigger of all. Because I wanted to quit, but my will was not strong enough. I didn't know then that the will is not where you rely on in order to quit a bad habit. I did not know, but that's why all the roads lead to Rome. Is That's another cultural thing, right? All the roads lead to Rome. The old roads don't lead to Rome, but in my case, that's exactly what happened. All of
And the
that led
strange
to
thing
the
about
mind.
And the strange thing is that when you use the word will, in Scandinavia, the will
It's the
is to
left.
stretch and stretch and stretch. My will is so strong. I need to do this. I need to do this. And you end up in the doctor's office and say, "Oh, help me." And
Exactly.
doesn't
Exactly.
know that the only remedy is to help yourself, to change your understanding of the will,
You
because
can only
I
change
learned that.
yourself.
Oh, just a second. I learned that from Bob Proctor. That is why I'm into this,
Exactly.
because I learned that the universal will is to focus inside,
Mhm.
not focus outside, but focus inside. So that is why why I was curious what motivated you with Earl Nightingale. Something tapped inside of you. You understood that is my road. But you
Right.
weren't 75 when you found your road. I was 75 when I listened to Bob and understood. My goodness, I've been so proud of my will because my middle name is Vilja, and that is will. And
Mhm.
then suddenly I understood now that to use my will to focus inside makes my life totally different.
Exactly. And
Totally
the
different.
transformation only happens in us and for us.
Yes.
You cannot
Mm,
change someone else. Someone else has
no.
to want to change in order to look for that path and find the path and follow that path. And that's what happened to you. It's your own time. That's what happened to me in my own time. Because the
Yes. When
transformation
we
is
are
within.
mature, we yeah, when we are open for it, when we understand, we feel that is something for me, then you go that road. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that's our calling. That's your calling. You found the inner qualities
Yes. Mm.
to the will.
I call it I cleansed my subconscious because I had to change what was there. That the
Mhm.
will is not to stretch outwards but inwards to focus. And you know what? When you focus inwards, you get ideas in your mind, like imagination, and then you suddenly understand, wow. And I heard Bob also tell me that we have these 6 mental muscles that we never use in our mind. And we are
Exactly.
not taught that in school. We are taught to listen to and only being curious what is in books, but where the whole secret is actually inside of us when we use our mental muscles correctly. That
The
is the
answer is
secret.
within us. Right.
Yes, yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
This is so thrilling and amazing. Not only the fact that we have discovered the secret, but the fact that we decided to go out and teach it. Because nowadays there's so many lost people that are still gone with the wind of the 5 senses. They still get swayed
Yes,
by what they hear and what they see. And they don't have a good foundation. They don't have a good 2 feet to stand on and say, wait a minute, do I believe this or do I don't believe this? We have the ability to tag each situation. We decide if it's good or bad. We don't decide because somebody says this is good, this is bad. This is good. Espresso is great and excellent for me. Some people say, oh my gosh, how can you drink that? Well, it's the same thing with what we hear. So at this point, I think we had a long call.
53 minutes, 27 seconds, and I think we have done good.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Liliana.
you. And I
Thank you
see
for
you.
finding this book.
No
It is
problem.
so
Well,
important.
I think the book found me because
Yes, because you
I have lots
told
of
me
books.
before we started
Yeah.
that that you have been wondering where is it, and suddenly it is in your
I was
hand.
there. Exactly.
Things does not happen by chance. It is
No,
some meaning.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
I have a lot of books here and I have a lot of books in Florida and I give away
Mm.
so many books in Michigan. So every time I think of a book and I say, where is it? Is it there? Is it there? And yes, I can have a lot of books in digital format, but I like the
Yeah,
paper, the
of
feeling.
course.
I like
The
to
feeling.
involve my touch. Okay, well, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. I might decide to post this on Facebook if I have your permission.
Yes, of course. Of
Okay,
course.
okay.
Goodness, you are the one that is teaching us. So
Oh, I'm
Of
not
course,
teaching. We're studying together. I'm not a teacher. No,
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 no, no, no, no, no, no, no, no, wrong word. My second language.
I'm not teaching you. I'm not
No,
teaching Ahmed. I'm not teaching Sasha. I'm teaching
no, 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 no.
clients.
You are giving us, you are giving us
I'm
the
sharing. I'm
possibility
sharing.
and sharing, and you're giving.
Yes,
But
I'm giving value. I'm going the
it's
extra mile.
like I said, English is the second language. So then
Exactly.
somehow I don't pinpoint what I'm saying. No.
Okay, well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Bente. It was a pleasure. Ciao.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.